All right, everyone. Link in the description, archived, of course, and this is not the only article that I've seen to this particular tune. The Democrats appear to be poised, and liberal legacy media is leading the way in trying to encourage this, to make the 2026 election about Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. That is, well, they're linked together. Trump is mentioned in the Epstein papers. That's why he won't release them, even though they'll probably be released before the midterm elections, at least some of them, which will kind of put the kibosh to that. I would encourage the liberals to do this. Please, destroy your chances at winning the midterms so that your party can collapse and burn and hopefully become something better. Because if you do this, if really Orange Man Bad slash Epstein becomes the main issue of the campaign, you will lose. Think about it this way. Imagine that you throw one punch and then you get punched 10 times in return. That would basically be a good metaphor for what would happen. Trump went on Epstein's plane. Okay, I'm so impressed. Yeah, he went on the plane to Manhattan, by the way, not to Epstein Island. He did that a couple times. Uh, why are these top 10 Dem donors all on the flight logs? It would be so easy. I mean, you're going to get crushed. You're going to get pummeled completely if you decide to make this a front burner issue. If you want to hold it over as a back burner issue for regional races or something, that might make sense. But on a national scale, oh man, you're going to get cut to pieces, quite literally. You're going to get destroyed. You probably won't manage to retake the House. You almost certainly wouldn't retake the Senate. You certainly won't have the votes to remove Trump from office or anything like that. You're going to get, I mean, basically, it'd be the equivalent of you putting your head in a meat grinder. It's almost political suicide when you think about it. So, we're not going to talk about the border. We're not going to talk about crime. We're not going to talk about anything diplomatic. We're not going to talk about, well, the budget or basically anything. No, Orange Man bad. And by the way, Orange Man flew on Epstein's flights a couple times. When they say, by the way, that Trump is mentioned in the Epstein files, he was told of this back in, I think it was last May. No shit, Sherlock. Of course he's mentioned in the Epstein files. We know that he flew on the Lolita Express. He just didn't fly to Epstein Island. He flew back to Trump Tower. Rich people borrow each other's private jets all the time. It depends on where they're stationed at the moment. And, they're all in contact with each other. Trump kicked Epstein out of his properties when he realized that the dude was a pervert. He kicked him out. He was reckoned to be highly cooperative in giving witness statements with regards to Epstein's character during the first round of allegations. He didn't hold back at all. He had nothing to hide. And this is something that I notice is not generally mentioned in these articles. Democrats are basically going to make, apparently, according to some of them, at least some of these races about Jeffrey Epstein. Again, that's such a terrible goddamn idea. It shows that the Democratic Party has not done any soul searching. I mean, if there is a soul there at all, that remains to be seen. So maybe it would be in vain anyway. You don't seem to understand. You're not taking the pulse of the crowd, so to speak. You're not reading the room. People are concerned about the border. They're concerned about crime. They're concerned about their taxes. They're concerned about inflation. They're concerned about the price of basic goods. They're concerned about possible World War III. These are the things that people are actually thinking about. They're not concerned educational attainment and health and things like that. They're not concerned about fucking Epstein. Epstein was basically buried in the news during the Biden administration by these same people, by the way, because so many liberal donors were on the flight logs. Once more documentation is released, I bet you'll have a vastly different story than you see now. They're trying to astroturf it. It's yet another astroturf attempt against Donald Trump. That's why every media outlet seems to be parroting the same thing. Trump was on the Epstein flight logs. Trump was an associate of Epstein. Yeah, it was, before he was actually alleged to be a pervert, but, it's still meaningful. He should have known better. Here's the top 5 moments that Trump said something that seemed creepy, with the whole pageantry or when he had his daughter on his lap. Oh my God, that's such a sin, by the way. Nobody ever has their kid in their lap. And shit like that. And they've been doing this now for days. They've been doing it, and part of it is self-inflicted. Let's admit one thing. I'm still Team Trump, but part of it is self-inflicted. The Trump administration should have rushed against this story as quickly as possible. I do want the Epstein papers. I'm sure that Trump is mentioned. He's probably mentioned as a witness against Jeffrey Epstein. It's the whole fucking point. All he has to do is get this shit together, and, there'll be some redaction and some things that aren't there. But overall, it would be better. It would be some form of public disclosure. Otherwise, it makes you look guilty. You may be as innocent as a goddamn lamb, but you're gonna look guilty. This happens within the legal system. When you're a public figure, if you don't address things publicly in a very measured manner, people assume your guilt. I know this firsthand. Uh, you've got to deal with the legal system first, and that's the reason why they haven't released everything. They're trying to go through it and figure out what they can release and what they can't, pertinent to ongoing investigations. That much is clear. And for that, you can't blame the Trump administration because they do not have another choice, legally speaking, unless they want a bunch of perps to walk, basically. That being said, though, some address to the public needs to be made as quickly as possible because then otherwise you get this shit. And if the Democrats are going to really make it about Trump and Epstein in 2026, oh God, you're going to get cut up so bad. It's not going to work, dude. By then, probably some of these investigations will have culminated in their final act, and some of the files will have been released. And I'm sure that Donald Trump will release the portion where he's mentioned because I have a feeling it's about him being a witness against Epstein. I have a feeling that it's about him being, alleged to have done something, but then they say, well, we couldn't find any evidence of him any wrongdoing, something like that. I do not believe that Donald Trump is into kids. I believe that Joe Biden is into kids. I believe that Donald Trump likes big knockers. He likes, high-class women that he can give a Corvette to in exchange for a good weekend and stuff like that. This was his MO for decades and decades. And Epstein probably did supply him with women. But I don't think he would bother supplying Trump with underaged women. I think that Trump is into again, the big titty crowd and models and stuff like that. People with name recognition. And he can wine and dine them with his star power because he was fucking Donald Trump. I mean, he wasn't actually fucking Donald Trump because he is, but, it's a figurative term. And then, he'd fuck these women, give them a Corvette or something like that, and then send them on their merry way. Give them $250,000 or something like that. And they would not think themselves ill-used unless their name was Stormy Daniels, who was successfully sued, I will note, by Donald Trump. That's about all. Peace out.